Hello YouTubers out there, this is the Boob Wasteland Show with your host Jerry Saravia. So today I'm making this a very short video. This is something I'd planned to discuss for the last few months now. And it's in regards to, once again, The View. The View is something I've discussed a lot on this show. Particular comments either made by the guest co-hosts or um, whatever the case may be, certain criticisms and who is leaving the show, and et cetera, all sorts of stuff about that show. But this in particular I wanted to discuss because I thought it was really important. And now I don't know if this is a recent thing in terms of how hot topics are covered in the show. As you know, The View is a daytime ABC show on from Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. until noon, 1 hour show. And Elizabeth Hasselbeck and Whoopi Goldberg, Barbara Walters, Joy Behar, and Sherry Shepard are the guest co-hosts. So they always talk about hot topics. But as the show starts every single day, what happens is they have you see the audience. That's how the show starts. So it's kind of like a preview of what they're going to discuss in hot topics, and then there are these three giant screens, 3 or 4 giant TV screens. And in there it says the hot topics for today, and today we're going to talk about this and that and the other. So it's like a little preview, what to expect in the show, what will be covered. And there's applause throughout. All right, I mean really heavy applause, like yeah, it's like if they're at the Macy's, Day Parade or something. It's really loud and they're all applauding, and okay, that's fine. I think that's really appropriate for how can I put it? Something like um, I'm trying to think of a talk show host in particular, Wendy Williams, because she covers light stuff, all about celebrities and so on. Sometimes there's heavier things like the death of a certain celebrity or whatever the case may be, but generally she starts off with fairly, just celebrity stuff, anything that's going on privately in the lives of celebrities. So I can understand applause for that in the preview to her show, like the coming attraction just at the start of the show. But The View, well, there's a bit of an issue. I'll give you an example from the past. About 8 or 9 months ago, The View discussed that one of their hot topics was going to be talking to somebody about an official or reporter or whatever it was in regards to Iran and the possibility of a World War III. This was something that was one of the news headlines a few months back. And there was applause. And what's interesting is, again, this was part of the opening preview. And Joel McHale on The Soup, essentially chastised him for that. And said, how can you be applauding, through that? It's one thing if it's, I don't know, Kim Kardashian is getting a divorce, or that's not necessarily happy news, but whatever the case may be. Anything light is fine for applause. Someone's getting married, I don't know, whatever it is. But when it comes to that, and the audience is told to keep applauding throughout because they have a warm-up comedian who tells them applaud, applaud, I mean, every live TV show has this. Now, on Monday, on Tuesday, the 16th, they, of course, were talking about the Boston bombings. And that's the start of the show. So in the preview, they said once again, here is today we're talking about the Boston bombings, the massacre that occurred in Boston, and you hear all this applause. No, this is just not appropriate. It is not appropriate. I think in the case of that, what really pisses me off is that although I hadn't seen The View back in the day, say around 2001, but I bet you when 9/11 happened and they got on the air, I think a week or two later, and again, I didn't know much about The View then, so I can't comment. I get a feeling they didn't, since it happened in their town, because it's shot in New York. It's live from New York. I bet you there was none of that fanfare. But the fact that this was in Boston, this should have been covered with a lot more restraint. Like, for example, when you remember Dave Letterman, um, and I guess again, I think this was about a week after 9/11, he came on. There wasn't the usual fanfare with the music, and here's David Letterman and all this. In fact, it was just complete silence, and it was zoom in to his Ed Sullivan Theater with the marquee, and that was it. The View needs to learn from that. When you're covering something that, a bombing of this kind, which hadn't occurred on U.S. soil since 9/11, or a terrorist attack of any kind really that hadn't occurred. I mean, there have been terrorist attacks that have been foiled or thwarted or stopped in some way. In this case, they should have handled it with more restraint. So the best thing they could have done was to have their logo, The View, total silence, show all four of the women and their guest co-host or whoever sitting at the table already. That would have been the ideal, classy way to do it. Barbara Walters, I think, should have done it that way. So I am really saying now that The View perhaps has got to stop that whole applause from the beginning, because it's become more than just a variety show. They don't talk about things like what Wendy Williams talks about. They talk about political events. They talk about everything, all kinds of things. And if it's particularly like if it's Casey Anthony found acquitted of murder or charged with murder, whatever the case may be, and there's applause, something's wrong. Well, maybe charged with murder, maybe people would applaud that. But being acquitted when some people feel she committed the crime is not appropriate. So The View needs to learn from that, and I hope they change that completely, because this is not just a variety show. Alright, that's all I got to say about that. More restraint would be necessary for The View. And that's it for me right now. This is the Boob Wasteland Show with your host, Jerry Saravia, signing off.